Greetings, Mustang Nation. I'm your host for today, Coach Wray Jr., and I have a special guest for you guys, Coach George McCleod.
Thank you, Coach Wray.
So, Coach McCleod, give me your overall feel, your overall review of this past season with Mandarin boys basketball.
I think the season was a success. It was a tough season. It was, a tough season for me. I know it was a tough season for our guys. But when I look at a season as a whole, I always go into a season with a goal in mind. And once I'm locked into that goal, that becomes one of the most important things for me. So I went into this season believing, knowing, wanting to win a district championship. I wanted to go back to back. That hasn't been done in, I believe, maybe 14 years. And I wanted to go back to back for T-Mac. And for people who don't know, Terry McCarter was the head boys basketball coach for 14 years at Mandarin High School, and he passed away just before our season began. And Terry was a mentor to me when I took the boys basketball job at Mandarin. He was still teaching there, and we are a coach removed. But nonetheless, his door was always open. I can go in and chat with him and talk basketball, family, or what have you. So going back to back was important for me because I wanted to, do it in his honor. So being locked in on that made things a little easier, but nonetheless, the season was tough for me because, we didn't have a winning record, and that the record is not what made it tough. When you don't have a winning record, what happens is sometimes people on the outside of your focus or on the outside of what the goal is won't see it the same way, and sometimes people can become unhappy. And when that happens, having to manage all of that becomes difficult. The most, well, I wouldn't say the most, but the one thing that made it really, really difficult was me being in the car accident after our second preseason game and trying to coach, I believe it was the first 5 games, and just realizing that I couldn't do it. So that was tough. Going through the games where I wasn't the head coach wasn't tough at all. I actually kind of enjoyed watching you. And for people who don't know, you being our JV head coach, took on the task of being the head coach. And I remember, and I know you'll remember this, one day we sat in my office at the school and I said, I need you to act as if the program is yours. Whatever decisions you make, I'm going to support it. But walk on campus as if I don't exist almost, and I'll do my best to be the best assistant that I can be. But if things ever got too overwhelming in certain areas, then I'll, be right there to kind of guide you. And I knew I wanted to use that as a tool to prepare you to be a head coach one day if you so desire to do so. So, I guess sidebar, I got to thank you for stepping up into that role. And of course, Coach Himwell for not only stepping up and, doing a really good job with the JV team. Even the 2 varsity games he coached, I think the first 2 games after the Fortegra tournament, you were sick. And I told Coach Himwell, hey, I hate to do this to you, but I need you to coach both games, JV and varsity. And he was up to the challenge. So it was mainly just me not being able, you feel a little weird when you're not able to do your job to the fullest, and knowing the things that could come with it, if you're not winning, you're gonna hear things, and I was okay with all of it, but nonetheless, you want your program to be as smooth as it can be, and it wasn't smooth, and I think that caused a little more stress on me than I needed because I was healing uh, from the concussion. But one thing I've always prided myself on is having the ability to put together a good staff, uh, guys who are knowledgeable, who's had some playing experience, and who could, go into a game and not miss a beat. And I think when you and Coach Shimwell stepped up to those head roles, be it coaching of JV game or varsity game, I don't think we missed a beat at all. So in that respect, um, it's again, it's a successful season. Um, I used to look at having a winning season or being above 500 as a successful season when I was early into my coaching career, but that changed after reading a lot of John Wooden books, and kind of shifting my thinking and just setting a goal up front. There are going to be some teams who they're going to set a goal, and this is kind of paraphrasing Coach Wooden, to where some teams, you go in, and this is not the case for Mandarin, but some teams will be lucky to win 5 games, and they just may not have the talent level, and they may be in a tough district or in a tough area, or what have you, and winning over 5 games may be a successful season for them. Um, and no means was that a goal of ours, or in no way were we that type of team. I knew we were the type of team that could win a district championship and be one of the rare teams to join like Capaxton High School and go back to back, and the guys did that. And that is what made the season enjoyable. Not only winning that championship, but watching the kids fight through adversity. And there was a lot of adversity we faced. And again, I purposefully chose not to handle certain things that probably could have been or should have been handled because I needed to heal. And again, I think you did a phenomenal job. Coach Shimwell did a phenomenal job. So I was just locked in and focused on, and I was telling the guys, we will win the championship. We will win it, So I remember asking you, would you rather have a winning season and not win a championship, or would you rather have a losing season and win a championship? And I remember you saying you'd rather win the championship. Last I checked, that was the most important thing. But I don't know if you remember my answer. When I asked the guys that question, I said I want both. But if I have to choose, obviously, bring home the hardware. And it was nice seeing the guys, run around the court and celebrate. So tough season in some respects, but yet a successful season in other respects. So I'm happy with the season. I'm proud of the boys, and again, I'm happy with what the coaching staff accomplished as a unit.
And I agree with you, Coach. It was a very successful season. It didn't have the wins and losses, but as you always say, they're nothing but glorified practices leading up to the district tournament. So really, we're 0-0 the whole time. So I really enjoyed it. It was a very fun season, and it's nothing like winning. Winning feels a lot better when you go through some adversity. It feels so good just to let out that excitement from winning back to back, especially. So we did win back to back, and there were 4 guys who were very pivotal to our success. 4 seniors to be exact. How does this look? How will it be? Will it be easy to fill those shoes of so much production that we had from these past 2 years?
Well, I would say, we had 9 guys in the district tournament, 9 guys that went in as varsity players, and we brought up 2 JV players. I think that every player there, all 11 players, were pivotal. They were important. Um, but I do understand what you mean by those 4, the core, in William Spriggs, Quajon Young, or Quay, is what we call them, Ty Jackson, and then the unsung hero really is Miles Coates. Those 4 guys have been together for 2 years, but Ty, Will, and Miles has been together for 3 years. That core was big this season. They were true seniors. Never complained really. Um, they came ready, and they shared that goal of winning that district championship. But to see those guys as seniors remain locked in to and being committed to winning a district championship when things seemed as if we weren't going to get out of the first round, to see those guys remain dedicated and committed, it shows true leadership. You know, we don't do any, we don't go back to back without those 4 guys. You know, Ty, with his energy and his leadership and his basketball IQ at the point guard position, he was pivotal because he ran the show, and he was okay with splitting time with our backup point guard and Benny McDuffie, who I saw come along through the season and just learn and learn and learn. Benny's a sophomore, and one of the things is I remember bringing him up. I think it was before the first game or maybe second game. I'm not sure, but I remember talking to him and said, "Hey, I want you to learn from Ty, and not only that, I want you to have my eye on the court. And the way we're going to develop that is in practice." And I remember talking to him like so much and say, "Hey, so you see how Ty is pointing his finger and telling people where to go? You see how loud he is?" And to see Benny do that, and I believe it was the first round of districts versus Flagler Palm Coast, when I pulled Ty and said, "Hey, Ty, we're purposefully going to ride Benny mostly this game, because we're going to win districts, and we're going to let you rest." And to see Benny on the court running the show, to me, not only showed his growth, but his IQ, and to be a sophomore at that size and to carry us in not only that game but many other games, it really lends way, or it really shows how important Ty was, with being humble and being willing to share and willing to teach. And they for the majority of the games, they split almost evenly. There were games where uh, Ty didn't get in the fourth quarter, or his playing time was limited because Benny was playing so well. Then there are games where Benny didn't play much, and because Ty was playing so well. And those guys just continue to work together. I think that was huge. Will, Will was huge for us. To see him grow from his junior year, his biggest part was how he grew mentally and how tough mentally he became, and he was driven. You know, kudos to him for being the FACA Player of the Year. Kudos to him for becoming a Gateway Conference player in Duval County. And it just shows that all of the hard work that he put in and the dedication that he put in, not only helped him as an individual, but helped us as a team. And I know he's receiving a few offers from some colleges, and I think that's amazing. That's been one of his goals, and he's been committed to it. Quajon Young, aka Quay, that's another guy that, like, he's an offensive threat. The kid can score, you know. Um, the kid can shoot, he can finish, he can do it all. But the biggest thing about him is that, and I think this really was infectious and it helped the entire team, is Quay is a great person. He'll be the first to congratulate someone else. He will always tell the team, "Love y'all boys," and he really meant that. Um, it's you don't get players that play at that level and a person that is a person at that level. You don't get both of those often. That dude would be sorely missed. Um, and Miles Coates again. I mentioned him being the unsung hero. Uh, he is. Most people don't really understand what Miles brought to the team. You know, his ability to remain locked in and remain focused. I think I call Miles' name more than anybody else on the team, but his ability to stay locked in, his ability at his size to block shots, to rebound. The kid focuses on fundamentals. And then there were times when he just become an offensive threat. That's the unsung hero, and we don't accomplish any of it without these four, but definitely without him uh, as well. And the way he taught and tutored the younger guys, like a sophomore like Josh Swan, um, who was an absolute monster, um, which more than likely, this could turn into, you know, the Josh show. Um, the kid can flat out go. The way Miles brought along Cameron, Cameron Langevin, 6'6" kid who can flat out shoot the short jumper, and who's just getting better and better. The way Miles tutored Colin Washington, you know, those guys began to rebound, block shots, and go hard because of the leadership as a senior that Miles left behind. So, those four seniors, uh, they're special. One, because they remain on the team throughout their senior year. In any team, there is always a point where you can quit. There's always a point, but nonetheless, um, they somehow stayed. And I have to make mention also of the leadership of Will and Quay, being on the wings and tutoring a guy like an Evan Cromedy, right? Um, Evan, I would say, is probably, if not, it can be arguably, but one of the best on the ball defenders we have. And, I'm excited to see him grow. I know he had a lot of frustrations and rightfully so, but nonetheless, a kid like that who's just willing to lay it all on the line, is great. So those four guys are going to leave a mark. You have some good kids coming uh, behind them, whether it be returning varsity players or a really dynamic talent group on the JV squad. A lot of guys will be moving up, so future's very bright.
I'm excited for it, Coach. So let's move on to a very hot topic.
Okay.
At the end of every season, high school and at the collegiate level, we always see a lot of transferring, especially at the collegiate level. You'll see at the bottom of ESPN, such and such has entered the transfer portal.
Okay.
So how do you feel about transferring at the collegiate and high school? It's been going on for the past
Well,
few years.
I think transferring is just a part of the sport. As a coach, I'm not offended by uh, players transferring. I know as coaches, we always get together and talk about, kids who's transferring, but I'm not one to complain about kids wanting to transfer. I'm a firm believer in parents and kids doing what they feel is best for their child's future. You know, that could mean a kid is going to leave our program and go somewhere else for whatever reason, you know, whether they are unhappy or they feel that there are better opportunities elsewhere. Hey, whether they're not fond of the coaching staff, you know, whatever it may be, um, it's a part of the game. I've always said that high school sports will always mimic pro sports, and if you look at professional basketball right now, players are switching teams when those contracts end, like often. And when you see that in the pros, you're going to see it in the NCAA or in NAIA or in JUCO or whatever. It's just a part of basketball culture. I think when players transfer, um, the school they transfer to is getting a blessing, you know. But when they leave one school, it opens doors for players who are still at your school to kind of step up into the roles that, you know, where those roles are now open. I'm a firm believer in I support whatever decision parents and students want to make. I support if they like to transfer because it's going to better the kid's future. I support if they want to remain at Mandarin for whatever reason. I support it. I don't get in the way of whatever decisions they choose to make, and I just support parents in doing what's best for their kids. I'll never get in the way of that. Um, I also feel that you know, when it comes to transferring, um, you know, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. I mean, hey, we've gotten transfers in, and you know, they probably didn't remain on the team, and they thought the grass was greener, you know, at Mandarin. But for them, it wasn't. You know, it's a part of life. Change is inevitable. That's just the way it is, and I accept the change. But I always feel, and I'm a firm believer in this, that things are always working out for me, you know, and for my staff, and for my team, and for my school. And I hold on to that, you know, and it's not just from a basketball standpoint. You know, I'll just repeat, things are always working out for me, no matter what, you know. And I've always told you before we won our first district championship together, is the right people will always show up. They always
Mhm.
will, and you know, that's what happened. And you know, we were, like I said, able to go back to back. Um, I do think that, you know, sometimes a lot of people do transfer because they're not happy. And I understand that. And I can surely identify with that. By the same token, um, I think that it comes down to, you know, just having people around you, people in your life that are guiding you properly and appropriately, and being happy at the end of the day. So we won't get away from transfers. They're going to continue to happen. Uh, they're at I would say, at an all-time high, and it's the nature of the sport. And no program or no coach is immune to it. It is going to happen. I would say in all of my years of coaching, 6 at Inglewood, 2 at Mandarin Girls, and then 5. So in those 13 years as a head coach, I've only had one player leave, and you know, the player wasn't happy, but I fully supported that kid, and you know, continue to chat with him via text or check up on him through his coach. And you know, I think everything worked out for everybody because things are always working out for everybody. As a coach, I just have to just stay calm. There's always going to be noise. There's always going to be things said. It's the nature of it, and I'm okay with it. It's cool. It's fine. Um, I just think love wins always. Uh, love always wins, and things are always working out for all of us. So you have my support either way, and everything is going to be okay. It will always be okay.
Well said, Coach. I always say, do what makes you happy, regardless of what anyone else thinks. Just do what makes you happy as a person. So the last thing, I don't want to hold you for too much longer, Coach, but I have to know, and it's a topic that you and I talk about quite often.
Hmm.
Give me at least 4 or 5 coaches / programs that you hold in high regard, that you respect.
Uh, are we talking at any level or high school level? What level are we talking?
At the high school level here in the Jacksonville area.
Okay. Oh well, you say here in the Jacksonville area. 'Cause I was gonna say the first guy is Melvin Randall, guy who coached me in high school. I see you smile because you know that name. Talk about him all the time and how he built the program, and always told us that, when I was playing for him in 94, 95, that we're the foundation. And he was right. And that foundation has produced for him 9 state championships. So, you know, um, understanding that blueprint. And I remember when he was in his first few years, his first 5 years at Pompano Ely, and, his season was going just like our season. And, they kind of wanted him out of there. Everybody was upset. But he caught stride. And, although he has 9 state championships, 2 of them were at my high school at Deerfield, and the other 7 were at Pompano Ely. And I think about him, and I know the struggles he went through in his first few years, and I can see those same struggles here. But we're going to break through in the same way. And it's just crazy because his team's colors are orange and green. So, I kind of look at those little signs. Jacksonville area, I'll say this. I don't think winning a lot of games means that the program is good. I think that means you're winning a lot of games. So the coaches I'm going to name, I've gotten a chance to talk with these coaches, take a peek inside, see what's going on behind closed doors. And I know that the overall program, even if these guys were not winning a lot of games and producing district championships or what have you, I know that the program is good, and I have a lot of respect. So Jerry Buckley at Bishop Kenny, um, just like any other coach, I know he has his folks around his team that are may not be happy with his decisions overall. I understand that. I get that. But at the end of the day, just some of the behind the scene things that this guy does, and his ability to always produce good teams at Bishop Kenny is huge. So I have a lot of respect for him. And, anytime a coach is willing to come out and meet with you and talk basketball, I think that's huge. Another guy is Toby Frazier at Paxson. I've known Toby for a long time, but from the coaching standpoint, the guy's really good. Has a really good understanding of the game. And again, like any coach, he has his season struggles, people being happy, some unhappy, but watching his strategies that he uses to push through and continue to stay focused, So back-to-back district championships, back-to-back Final Four appearances is great. But, even if he didn't have the great Isaiah Adams, who's going to UCF to play for Coach Johnny Dawkins. I still think this guy can continue to win. You know, he has a really good core coming back, phenomenal JV team, but it's not about the athlete and the winning. It's about him as a person and how he positions his program. I don't think you can talk about coaches in this area without talking about Jim Martin. Now, Jim, I've never gotten a chance to talk basketball with, but I've talked to other coaches who can call Jim, and Jim will give them advice, or Jim will talk basketball with them, you know. And you know, with what Jim is doing with JBA and the multiple sites that he has coming up with training young basketball players, I mean, how can we have this conversation without saying Jim? I would say Jim is, you know, one of the best trained smoking in town with his development program, with what he's done, um, 3 state championships, you know, having great players come through, you know, in the Stacy Poole, Patrick Young, Grayson Allen. I mean, how can you miss him? But even when he has not had those guys, you know, he hasn't won a state championship since Grayson, but I think his teams have been really good. And I think, you know, he's been realistic on how far they can go. You're not going to get a state championship every year, but to have 3, I think is remarkable. You know, some people go their entire career and, you know, getting on. I'm also a fan of Jason Hughes at Bowles. And again, I know the people I'm naming racks up wins, but I can name these guys because I've had the opportunity to go in and sit and talk one-on-one and to see a lot of these guys just willing to share information. I think that says a lot about who they are. So I'm a huge fan of Jason Hughes and what he's doing at Bowles, and then his training program with the Blue Heat Basketball Academy. So big fan of his. And I know that this last and final guy doesn't get a lot of credit, although he's been to the finals 2 years in a row. I haven't talked basketball with him like at all since the both of us has been coaching. I've known him for a long time. But when I go to his games, I can clearly see his intent. I can clearly see his strategy and what he's trying to do. And I think his greatest accomplishment thus far is taking the team he had this year to the state finals, and that's Coach James Collins at Jackson High School. I personally think he's a really good coach. I don't know much about the program because, again, I haven't had a chance to sit and chat with him, but I do know when I watch his games, I can clearly pick up on his intentions and what he's trying to do and actually what he gets done. So those are 5. You know, there are a lot of guys that obviously I'm going to leave out. That's no disrespect to anyone. Those are just, you know, a few of the guys that pop up in my mind quickly. So there you have it.
Thanks, Coach. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we can get you on the show again sometime in the future. Mustang Nation, we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you, Coach Wray.
Yes, sir.